hello.
Right, I think we're ready to get started.
Yeah, I think so.
All right. So, Kate, I'll let you kick us off. Welcome,
Okay,
everyone.
great. Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us at the New Jersey Business and Industry Association's Business Growth Roundtable. We at NJBIA are thrilled to have helped in the creation of this amazing group led by such amazing women. For those of you who are new to NJBIA, we are the largest statewide business association in the nation, representing about 1/4 of all New Jersey employees, and we offer customer development opportunities, visibility through events, magazine ads, or our podcasts and TV shows, and money-saving discounts on stuff you're probably already paying for, like payroll, healthcare, 401k solution, and 24/7 HR support. I am Kate Conroy, and if you're interested in more info on us, I will drop the website into the chat along with my contact info. Please feel free to be in touch and we can get you whatever you need. And with that, I will now turn it over to the marvelous Donna Miller.
Thank you, Kate, and welcome everyone. Delighted to be here with you for our, had to look at the calendar, November Business Roundtable. We've got a great panel discussion for you today and a little bit of housekeeping. We will be recording this, take copious notes, but we will be recording and you'll get a link to the recording. We will allow time at the end of the event for Q&A. The fabulous Vicki Hart will join us a little bit later to facilitate Q&A. We do ask that you use the Q&A window because the chat window gets a little cray-cray when you've got this many people. However, use the chat window to introduce yourself, to connect with other people here on the meeting. We call that, you know what it is, it's called virtual networking. So we thank you. And I have to say, well, I didn't introduce myself, did I, Rachel? Oops. Okay. So I'm Donna Miller. Donna Miller, Chief Visionary Officer at C3 Workplace and founder of Donna Miller Business Growth Consulting. And over the last 30 years, I've helped literally thousands of companies to start and grow. We help them, C3 Workplace, we help them by helping them to build administrative infrastructure and the systems to scale. You'll hear that word a lot today. And through my consulting practice, I help business owners to up-level their business and create those businesses that run without them involved in the day-to-day and maybe help them find the exit door. I don't know if anyone's looking for an exit door, but that's kind of what I help people do. So this event would not be possible. C3 stands for Connect, Collaborate, Community. I firmly believe in the power of collaboration, literally rebranded the company around it. So this event would not be possible without the support of a whole lot of people, including our sponsors. If you've been with us anytime, you know that Cal Thomas at Sandler Sales is one of our sponsors. We thank you, Cal. And if you don't know this, about half of Cal's time is spent working with clients to create effective, consistent, and repeatable, AKA scalable, sales processes to qualify the right opportunities, disqualify the wrong ones, and close business more efficiently. Are those angels you hear? It really works. Most of us here are Sandler graduates. The other half of Cal's time is spent working with leaders and managers to recruit, hire, onboard, and retain quality talent, something I know you're all struggling with. And you know, the cost of replacing a salesperson is significantly higher than replacing other positions within your organization. So lastly, if you are or know a successful woman in sales who wants to next level her ability, Cal is offering a Woman in Sales scholarship for a full year. This is insane. I know information will be in the follow-up email, and I'm sure Cal will drop something in the chat, but that's something you absolutely want to take advantage of. And we also want to thank the fabulous Kim Luthi from Synthesis Wealth. She is Synthesis Wealth's Director of Wealth Planning. Ooh, I need a nap. And Certified Financial Planner. Kim is dedicated to excellence and doesn't let a moment pass to share her gratitude for the true gift of being able to make a difference in the lives she touches every day. As we wind down the year, her message to her clients and to all of you is to relish in all that you've accomplished, reflect on where you've been, and look forward and decide where you want to go in 2023. Not uncommon, we overestimate what we can accomplish in a year, but we underestimate what we can accomplish in 3. That's playing the long game. So what does your next chapter look like? Are you doing all you can to set yourself up for a comfortable retirement? In this season of giving, give thanks to yourself and give a gift to you and your family of planning for your future. You'll ease the burden of for your loved ones, and you'll up-level your own lifestyle. Contact Kim today, who will also be in the follow-up emails, and I'm sure she's going to drop something in the chat as we speak. Don't miss out on this opportunity. Speaking of opportunities, the December Business Growth Roundtable, which will be December 13th, we will be having a discussion on the economic outlook and analysis of what's coming. We are happy to welcome Sarah Crom, managing partner from SKC and Company, the entrepreneurial accounting firm, and Christopher Emmaholtz, who is the Chief Affairs Officer at NJBIA, and he is an economic and tax expert. Really excited about that. And when I'm finished talking, I will drop that link in the chat because I can multitask, but not that well. I also want you to mark your calendars. January 10th, this little book here called The Go-Giver, a little story about a powerful business idea, was genuinely a game changer for me in my perspective on how to build a business. With the help of that collaborative community that I mentioned, Cal Thomas has secured Bob Berg as our January speaker. Buy the book, read the book. I read it again. I was just in Sedona. It took me about 3 hours. Join us in January where Bob will join us live for a Q&A, and I am uber excited about that. And with that, I'm going to hand it back to the fabulous Rachel Durkin.
I feel like you did that better than I usually do. So I guess I'm losing my job, guys. All right, so thank you all for being here. My name is Rachel Durkin. I am the president of Paradigm Marketing and Design. Paradigm is a web marketing, branding, and workflow agency that specializes in working with clients with a complex sale. That means our clients require a salesperson or a conversation to close the deal. And we specialize, we have teams from workflow and marketing automation to marketing strategy development and execution to everything in between. And we specialize in helping sales teams shorten their sales cycle and increase the number of quality meetings that they're having. We would be happy to offer you an audit or a consult as the new year approaches if you want to think about your marketing or sales plan for the coming year. With that said, we're now going to get into talking about how to build self-scaling teams. Now, to me, as I've grown my business over the years, it's been not just 1 year, it's been a lot. I have found that just having a business that runs without you is one hurdle to accomplish, but a true self-scaling team has a business that will grow without you. And that is the final frontier. So today we have some amazing panelists who are all business owners of companies that are self-scaling. So together, we're going to hopefully share some of our knowledge with you and give you some advice on how you can leverage it in order to build your own self-scaling teams or continue to grow them if you already have them. So I'm delighted to introduce our panelists today. So first we have the lovely Donna Miller, who already did her introduction. So I'll leave it at that. She did it much better than I ever could. And then we have Roseanne DeTorres, who is the managing partner at DeTorres and DeGeorge Family Law. And then we have Stan Push, who is the president of CP Engineers. So I'm going to start kicking off this panel, but I wanted to give you some background. The four of us have talked in the last couple of weeks about what we're going to discuss today. And what we really narrowed it down to is 4 key topics: people, process, culture, and focus. If you can achieve your goals in these 4 areas, you should be able to help to create self-scaling teams that propel themselves forward when you step away. So with that, I'm going to first ask my first question to Stan for you to kick us off, Stan. And if you want to just give us a very brief introduction about who you are, you're welcome to. But Stan, when it comes to people, I know that this is so important to you because I hear you preach about it and it feels like you're so passionate about it. How did you build a self-scaling team?
Well, Similar to you, I've got a number of years behind me. CP Engineers is in its 40th year. We're celebrating our 40th year anniversary next year. But I've been in the business for 30 plus years. Okay. So I've seen small businesses, I've seen them evolve, I've seen them grow. The fundamental key to growth, in my perspective, relates to leadership. It's leadership throughout the organization. If the organization is going to grow, there has to be other leaders within the organization carrying that organization forward. Otherwise, it becomes heavier and heavier, and there comes a point that you can't carry. But leadership alone doesn't solve your issues. As the company grows and matures, so too do the leaders need to grow and mature. So a leader needs to recognize that they need to delegate in order to elevate. And I know that's one of the hardest things that all of us face, letting go of things, because we know how to do everything well. We know how to do it our way. And when we let go and give it to others, they're going to do it differently. And that's okay. And they're going to make mistakes just like we made mistakes. But it's an essential ingredient for us to move on. So leadership throughout all levels of the organization, supporting them, encouraging them, helping them grow, and then practicing what you preach, delegate to others, elevate yourself, and you'll be able to move on. Keep it simple.
I can't agree with that more. I feel like all I do these days is try really hard to build others up and give them confidence, because it's so important so that they can take the reins and do things their way as they continue to run the company. You're so right. So Roseanne, you also talked to me a lot about building a cohesive team that works together. This labor market is not conducive to that. So how do you build one, and especially in this labor market?
It's not easy, but one of the things that we've done is be very selective about who we hire. Even in the tight labor market, we're not selling ourselves short. We are not reducing our standards, if you will. We do a bang-up job in selecting candidates. We have a very transparent hiring process. We do an initial phone interview, then we do virtual interviews, and we bring them in. And frankly, everybody on our team, and I run a small firm, it's about 10 people. We have everybody interview these people because we want to make sure that they have a skill set, but really, do they fit? And a lot of what I do in my culture is about attitude and stick-to-itiveness. It's a tough job. It's a litigation-based practice. There's a lot of conflict. People are in distress when they come in to see us. So you have to have the right temperament, the right sort of personality to be able to work efficiently and effectively in that process. I also think that, one of the things I've learned very early on from people that are on this panel is who's doing what. It sounds simple, but an organizational chart, everybody needs to know what they're doing. And that starts with organizing people within the company. Who's doing what? Some of that is sounds very basic, but you would be surprised when, frankly, Donna Miller asked me for the first time, "Let me see your organizational chart." I'm like, "What do you mean? What organization?
We have it right here."
What are you talking about? But yeah, no, that, cohesive teams are not easy to build, and they ebb and they flow, but starting like with what Stan said about leadership and also being vulnerable with your team, showing them that you're not perfect, empowering them to make decisions for themselves, asking a lot of questions and not sort of ruling from the top down, but letting your team solve the problems that they're facing. And that's one of the things I learned. A lot of lawyers think they're the smartest people in the room, but frankly, my team is way smarter than I am. And when I let them solve the problems, they're often much, much better at it than I am.
Yeah, I agree. I like what you said. Hiring for culture and values, to me, is more important than hiring for skill. Skill can be taught. Culture 100%. And values can't be. And that's, when everyone shares their values, the team is more cohesive. The other thing that I learned that you mentioned, Roseanne, is as a small company, I always wanted to say to myself, let's be nimble. Let's hire this person. They can do these 2 jobs. I can do 5 jobs. I'm an entrepreneur. They can do these 2. That right. Never works. You have to hire them for 1 job, then hire 2 people if you must, because it creates problems, because people want to be hired for what they're good at. The one thing I also want to call out is, Roseanne, you have 10 employees, and Stan, how many do you have?
About 45.
45. We have 30. Donna, you're in the 10 to 20 range, right?
Yeah, I have 18 now.
Okay. So I guess my point here is that, we're in the small business world, but size doesn't matter. You can have a a self-scaling team at 5 employees or at 100 employees. It depends on the team that you build. But I always found that it's easier to hire operationally and scale that way than it was to hire sales. So with that, Donna, you've talked a lot about building a selling culture that is going to bring sales in over time. To me, that was my final frontier. It was so challenging. Talk to us about that.
Okay, sure. First of all, back to that org chart for a minute, and this comes under the sales umbrella and the operations umbrella. Sometimes that org chart when you're starting out is me. But the truth is, the goal is you will fit other people into those roles. So when I think about creating a culture, as I've grown my business, getting other people to sell was a real challenge. So as a leader, you have to have your people walk alongside you so that they understand the process. We're a very other than, an office rental or a virtual office, which is very straightforward, our sales are also consultative. So there's an assessment process, and there's a proposal process, and there's an entire process that we've learned also, from Cal, how to create that process. But what I've learned is really important is making sure everyone understands what you do so that when they're sitting at your reception desk or they're answering your phone or they're out at a cocktail party with their friends on a Saturday night, they know how to say what you do. And it's always important to me to be in dialogue with my frontline people who are literally working with the clients day to day, which frankly, I don't do so much anymore. I have my consulting clients that I work with, on a day-to-day basis, but I'm not the direct client contact anymore. I have to teach them what pain looks like. I have to teach them what pain sounds like so they can say, maybe we can help with, it's about helping them to identify opportunities and ask questions. And I have to tell you that this has been a shift for me that's happened over the last couple of years. And now I go away and I come back and we have brand new clients that I had nothing to do with, which is really great. And, it kind of goes to what Stan said, as business leaders, I believe we are called to raise up leaders. And when you talk about creating cohesive, engaged team, people want to up level their own performance. If you've got people who just want to, check the box and pass it along, chances are if you're on this business roundtable, you've got the wrong people. It's, Jim Collins, you need the right people in the right seats on the bus. So getting everyone in the organization selling is really about deciding who can do what in the organization. So A, can they identify pain and answer questions? B, can I create a whole bunch of templates in my CRM? Paradigm can help you with this, that if someone calls regarding this service, they send that template. So the voice of C3 and the voice of Donna Miller is significantly wider and deeper and larger than it really is, because we're creating the culture of everyone selling, and we're backing it up with the tools to equip our team to do just that. And it also comes back to, and this is at the core, I know we're all past it, but at C3, we work with solos, growing businesses and organizations. And on the solo side, which I know some of our audience is, it's really important to charge what you're worth and charge as if you've already hired someone else to do the work. People want value. They really don't want a bargain. Oh, let me rephrase that. I don't think you want to build a business based on being the cheapest person in the room. So like when I rent offices, and I learned this at Sandler, one of the very first things we say is, we will never be your least expensive option, and we're not for everyone. But boy, do we deliver a value proposition. So when I think about creating that culture of selling, it's really making sure everyone knows the message, and that's tied to your mission, values, vision, and making sure you're charging what you're worth so that you have the margins to do all of that.
I can't agree more. I love that you said that. We did a 360, Donna, for training when we asked everybody in the company what we do, and the designers had different answers than the web developers. The account team did the best, thank God. But you've got people in the whole company that can be part of the sales process. And in fact, I don't even know if Cal knows this, but I've made it a promotion requirement on our account team that they go through the basics of Sandler so they understand and get comfortable with selling. So I can't agree more. So with that, let me move over to process. And Stan, I don't have you with a bullet in process, but I'll leave it open at the end if you have anything to add to it for this one. So Roseanne, when you're building a process, it seems overwhelming. Where do you even start?
When I first started doing that, I read the E-Myth book that talked about, working on your business instead of in your business. And I spent an entire week vacation because like Donna said, the organizational chart was me. And that's what it was. I was doing everything. And so, but I defined all the essential functions of my small little business: HR, finance, operations, sales. And then I drilled down from those essential functions in a very, very granular way as to the mechanics of what those roles did on a day-to-day basis. I mean, even from the nuances of how we answer the phone, what are the words that we say, how do we handle what we call intakes, people that are calling that want to hire us or considering conferring with us about their family law case or divorce. What are the things we ask them? What are the things that we say? What kind of personality do you need to have to be the person that's answering that phone call? And that worked on every person on the team. What did they do? How are you photocopying documents? How do you process the mail? How do you send mail? How do you receive the mail? How do you draft the documents that we draft on a common basis? So all of those things, those repetitive functions on every level, whether it's the front desk person to the lawyer, a senior lawyer or a junior lawyer, all of their essential functions and processes had to be documented. And these are living documents. They don't, by the time you draft them, tomorrow they may be a little different. But what ended up happening, which I found to be the most, the essential thing that really catapulted us to the next level in terms of scaling, was when I got out of the way. Yeah, right. Just get out of the way, Taurus, and let them. Was after I drafted all these things the way I thought they should be, as I hired people to fill in these positions, they did a much better job of defining what those essential functions, processes, and systems should be, because they were doing them every day. I was just trying to imagine what they were because I was just lawyering and trying to bring in clients. But really, any business that wants to scale and to do it so that you don't have to be there. Frankly, I'm on vacation this week, just so you know. I'm on a beach vacation right now, and my firm is making money and doing things without me. And I'm not watching my email. I'm not doing I'm doing this, but that's
because you love us.
Thank you.
Yeah. So if you want your business to run by itself, you've got to define what those systems and processes are on a very granular basis so that people know what to do when you're not there. Mm-hmm. And they don't have to ask me a million questions about what they should do or what they shouldn't be doing. So I learned that very early on. That has served us very, very well.
And sometimes getting out of the way, like when I go on vacation, or I know when I had my kids and I went on a short maternity leave, I came back and sometimes things were better because they had to figure it out without me. So sometimes you just don't want to be available to answer the questions, right? And be that crutch. The other tool that, when you mentioned, Roseanne, figuring out what other people should do, I know it's really hard to take pieces of yourself or pieces of others and figure out what jobs those should be. I have found tools like T-sheets to be so helpful with that. If you track your time well, it's a real pain in the butt, but man, the data you get when you look back and see where your time was spent is so valuable. So I highly recommend something like that because it helps you split out those jobs.
Well, you don't have to tell lawyers to track their time.
That's true. But for those of you that have to track their time, but don't have to do it, I highly recommend it. So in in working with our own clients on their workflow goals, we know, or I know, that business automation can save 10 to 50% of someone's time on manual tasks. So, Donna, I know that you're a big proponent of automation. Talk to me a little bit about some of the strategies you use to build strong processes.
Great question. And we too are also T-sheet fans.
Mm-hmm.
And whatever you use, and I actually have a time tracking tool in Excel because I love to show business owners if they could delegate 4 hours a week and then use those 4 hours a week for business development. It's this whole mathematical calculation of the return on investment. It's giant. And I think I also agree, tracking time, of course, it's easy to wrap your head around tracking client billable time, which is important, but the internal time, I still review that monthly because that's hard dollars as well. Anyway, so I'm a big proponent of T-sheets. So I agree also with what Roseanne said, document. The thing I will also say is what we've learned about the documentations, and we have playbooks for everything, for the front desk, for sales, for onboarding, for wind downs, for this, for that, the other. We have documentation for everything we do. But the truth is, you have to walk your people through that documentation. You cannot assume that what you wrote that is patently clear to you will be clear to the other person. So I think part of that culture is creating an onboarding schedule to really make sure your people understand what the goals are and how to get them. And I always say to new people, just do it our way for a little while. Well, I don't actually say it anymore. Somebody else does. Do it our way for a little while, and then we'll be open to your suggestions. But as far as technology goes, I have been a CRM person for a ridiculously long time. We now help people implement Zoho on kind of a smaller scale than Paradigm does. But what I know to be true is you might hate it for about the first year. I hated my CRM. What a pain in the ass. It felt like work. But here I am about 15 years later, and my Zoho is connected to my website, which is connected to my email marketing, which is connected to my QuickBooks Online. There's no redundancy. I mean, there's some redundancy around financials because I believe that's very important. But everything is connected. So with one entry, and usually the entry starts at the website. Someone visits your website, they fill out a form, that goes into Zoho. It generates an automatic response that you get copied on and you can follow up on, and that puts it over into your email marketing. And you know what? This is not big technology. This is not Fortune 500 stuff. This is the beauty of all the software as a service solutions that are out there, are hosted software. So to connect all of these is really, really important. And the other thing I want to say is just quickly, we have this phrase at C3 Workplace, when we're looking at how we're doing something, we say, is it a turkey butt? It's Thanksgiving, so I'm going to tell the story. A daughter is preparing Thanksgiving dinner after years and years and years of watching her mother prepare Thanksgiving dinner. And the mom is now in the kitchen helping the daughter versus the other way around. The daughter takes the turkey out of the refrigerator, cuts the butt off, puts it in the pan and puts it in the oven. And the mother says, why'd you cut the turkey butt off? And the daughter says, because you always cut the turkey butt off. And the mother says, that's because it didn't fit in the pan. So you have to look at your standard operating practices and say, are we doing this because it's the best way to do it or because it's a turkey butt? So that's my rant.
I can't agree with that. I mean, technology can be so amazing, but it can also make you lazy. And I always say to my team, you're not allowed to get lazy with this. It's supposed to make you better and more efficient. So that's so important. You're absolutely right. So I'm going to transition to culture, but before I do that, Stan, do you have anything you want to comment or add on to for process?
Yeah, I just want to pull a few things together that were brought out there. So just to give context, I indicated that we're about 45 people or so. We grew from a revenue standpoint 60% in the last 12 months, 60. The question that comes out, can you grow profitably? That's the be all and end all question. Well, you cannot do so unless you put the scalable practices in place. Donna mentioned CRM. We are just beginning our CM process. I thank you for that heads up that it's going to be painful for the next year, because it's been painful thus
Sorry,
far.
but it's true. It's true.
I know. As soon as we get off this call, I'm going to be on the phone with Lorraine and talking about it. So, but we are committed to
what he's
going
being nice
through.
is his paradigm's the one doing it. And he's like, it's terrible.
But here's the thing: you've got to make a commitment and do it. You know, we're an engineering firm. We're technical people. We are process, okay? And just like Roseanne, in the legal field, we track time. It's very methodical. So one would think that it's a natural thing for us to get on this process bandwagon and move things forward. But a comment was made earlier about working on the business versus in the business. And you need to step out and do just that, because for the projects that we work on, we do excellent work. We produce the great products, et cetera. But you need to step away from it once in a while and understand, what am I doing now? Another shout out that we all know, Andrea Diaz is our accountant, and we check in periodically. She was here a week or 2 or 3 ago, and she made a comment I think is very relevant to this scaling concept. And that was, what got you here is not going to get you there. And the scaling process requires us to recognize that scale has to change. What I do for the last increment is not going to get me on the next one. So as you know, a leader in the organization, I have to evolve. If the company's evolving, I have to evolve. The other leaders within the organization have to evolve. Our process has to evolve. Nothing is static. The world is changing constantly. Economics, politics. By the way, politics, it's election day. Make sure you get out there and vote. Your TV watching will get very quiet tomorrow with all the commercials gone. But change is inevitable. It will occur, and we need to evolve with that. So that's my pull through on a couple of things that were just said.
Right on, Stan. Thank you for wrapping that up. That was perfect. So let me transition over to culture, because this is something that I'll admit that in my early years I overlooked, because it came naturally when you're smaller. I think, at least for me, when we were smaller, it was easier to come naturally.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just talking to my COO today about the fact that as a virtual organization, culture is even more important, and it's harder, and you have to pay attention earlier. You know, I feel like as a 30-person company, we have to pay attention at the same rate a 100-person company would if they were, you know, who's in person. So we know that company culture is an influencing factor in over 46% of job seekers. And we know in this labor market, that's really important. And a strong culture results in more motivated and productive employees and lower turnover rate. And turnover is very expensive, which we also all know. But building a culture is really, really hard. And it's something you have to prioritize. So Donna, talk to us about the importance of building a culture, and give us some feedback on that.
So this next little segment comes from, I always say that I am a recovered micromanager. There was no situation I could make worse. I'm telling you, I was horrific. You know, no one could do it as good as me. I did everything. So why would anyone do anything? So what happens when you become a really skilled micromanager is you change or you die. And failure has never been an option for me. So I began the process of changing, and that came back to culture. And I firmly believe that culture eats strategy for breakfast. Strategy is important, but I think culture is more important. So it's the glue that connects everything. So, and in today's market, I don't think there's anything more important than culture. We've got long-term employees in a high turnover area. We do administrative work, not uncommon, you know, at that entry level to experience a lot of turnover. We haven't experienced that. We have a work family. We have a mission, values, vision. We recruit to that mission, values, vision. To apply for a position at C3 Workplace, first, you have to watch Simon Sinek's video, How Great Leaders Inspire Action. Then you have to read our mission, values, vision statement. Then you have to email me and tell me how your values match my values. And guess what? I get very few candidates, but I get the right candidates. So I think you have to get clear on your mission, values, vision, and you have to have, you know, I just facilitated, Rachel had her whole team in for a retreat, and I facilitated a session over a certain amount of time, and we solidified their mission, values, vision. And they have a committee who will make sure that mission, values, vision continues to actually, you need to live it out loud. having it doesn't mean anything. So you need to live it out loud. So, culture is something that you do every day. It's the barometer for everything that you do. I believe that, and this directly relates to the Go Giver that we'll be talking about in January. You get what you give. And so if you put your values out there into the world, the truth is, for me, that's exactly what walks into my life, professionally and personally. Culture's everything.
That's so true. And I can't speak more enough about the importance of 360 feedback in a safe environment. So making sure team members have access to other people who aren't their managers, who they can share their thoughts and feelings with, is great. Also, I'm sure that your payroll system, or a lot of payroll systems, we use Gusto, they have systems where they can send out, anonymous surveys and get the pulse of how the company's feeling. I can't recommend that enough. It gives a lot of great information. Okay, so Roseanne, how have you built your culture that supports the self-scaling team? Tell us a little bit about it.
So, like I said before, I get out of the way a lot because what Donna said resonates. If there isn't a situation that I can't make 10 times worse. Great lawyer. I think of myself as a great lawyer. If you want to get divorced and you need somebody tough on your side and knows how to settle a case, I'm your gal. Running a company was not in my wheelhouse. And my ego, I'll just be vulnerable right now and just say that my ego told me that I could do anything. And in that meant leading and creating that culture. And I learned quickly that is just flat out wrong, frankly. And that in my line of work, there's a lot of people that came through as a part of our team that were intimidated by the lawyers because, we wielded all this power and we litigation just creates these personalities. We're always on, there's always something changing. And, you could have 5 things on your plate as a paralegal in my firm. And then 30 minutes from now, everything on your plate is off your plate because now we're working on this emergency. And so the culture could be very, very draining and challenging. What I have done, and this has taken years for me to really learn, to be perfectly honest, is that I have to ask a lot of questions and just get out of the way of the answers. Let my team empower them to fix things, to address challenges, to tell me how they're going to deal with whatever is being, is coming to the forefront. And I love what you said, Rachel, about the 360 feedback, because I'm always the last to know if there's a problem with culture.
You think you're so approachable, but I'm like, why didn't anybody tell me this?
My door is always open. How come nobody told me? But I have a system where feedback is given anonymously, if you will, and then it does come back to us and we address it. And we also think that culture is way more important, frankly, than even the work that we do. Who wants to go to work every day and not be happy with the building that they're entering? Doesn't look forward to going there? Has anxiety about being there when they get there? Nobody. Certainly, I don't want to be that. And I don't want to work in a system where the people that I'm working with are oppressed or feel in any way like they just don't want to be there. I don't want that. How I create that is really by getting out of the way and letting the people that know how to create that do that, because that's not my skill set, to be frank, to be quite vulnerable about it. Empowering them to do it, to tell me what is needed. Because of my age, baby boomer, my work ethic was sit down, shut up, and just do what you're told. That's the way when I was a new lawyer, that's how I was treated. You can't do that anymore. And people all communicate differently. People learn differently. My paralegal will give you a quick example. For the last year, she's a new paralegal. She's been with us a little over a year. I can work anywhere. I have a laptop. I don't need paper. I'm not one of those lawyers that needs a lot of paper around. I don't need the file to work. She, however, communicates visually and does not like a virtual environment. It took her a year to tell me, finally, she became vulnerable enough to tell me that she works better when I'm in the office. Guess what? Now I work in the office because it's better for her. I didn't know that until she felt comfortable enough telling me that. That's just an example of how now our culture is so much more improved. She's so much more effective. All I had to do was drive to the office.
Yeah.
So
it makes such a big difference when and getting others to share with you, even when you are vulnerable, is challenging as leaders. So Stan, when I hear you talk about your leaders, there's a passion in your voice. But tell me a little bit about how you build culture, because I know it's a big deal to you.
Yeah, it is. And similar to Roseanne, when you have a firm of licensed professionals and you're good at your profession, the business is not a natural thing to do. So, being open to learn, to listen to others, a lot of reading, a lot of outsourcing. But what we did was we actually took our leadership off-site. We went to Donna's facility in Sparta, C3 in Sparta. We rented the room out. We got out of the building because we needed to be away from our day job. We hunkered down in the room and we spent the day figuring out who we were and where we were going. And I can recall that meeting to this point. We created something you've read in, I forget who the author of this is, maybe Jim Collins, a big, hairy, audacious goal, a BHAG. And we needed to say who we were going to be when we grow up 10 years from now. And, we all had some trepidations. And I put out there a big number, a very big number, how many number of employees we have. And the number I came up with was 200. And we're 45 now. What does that mean? It's a number. What does it mean? There was silence around the table. They all looked at me like I was nuts. But then they thought about it and we discussed it. And at the end of the day, what we ended up doing was we ended up creating a vision that had a lot of depth and profile to it. A vision that was out there long-term, but also had steps to get there. And incrementally, everyone around the table began to own that vision. It wasn't my vision. I may have initiated the process, but everyone had their fingerprints all over it. After we created that vision, we were able to complement that with our core values and the like. We brought that back to the office to everybody else and gave a presentation. And they were still draft because unless they're owned by everyone, unless everybody believes in them, creating a vision is one thing, putting it on a piece of paper, it might look good on the walls, it might sound nice, etc. But these are things that we have to live by. These are things that we need to make our decisions by. There's an expression we use on our core values. We hire, fire, recognize, and reward based on our core values. If the core values aren't there, you don't belong here. If the core values are there and you are going above and beyond, we need to recognize that. We need to reward, and we do. We need to be guided by those belief principles going forward. Once we have a vision, and once everyone believes it, then we need to start living it and making it happen. And my chief responsibility at that point is not to be the president, it's to be the chief cheerleader for the organization and rally and rally and rally, bringing energy to the organization around those principles of who we are. Now you've got a vision. That's great. It's a feel-good moment. The core values, I feel good about myself. But how do I take that and actually achieve what I want to achieve, which is scaling? Okay, because I can't scale it. It's too big for me. Others have to be. So we need to create a plan. Well, the plan we create based upon what we know today. And the plan has multiple parts and multiple pieces, and everyone's got to be part of it. So we're in a boat and we're all rowing. Everyone's got an oar and everyone's got to contribute. And each oar is a different role and responsibility in the organization. And if we're not in sync, then we're fighting each other. And these things happen. You cannot plan for and expect complete harmony. Things are going to break down. The reality of the world is going to change from what you anticipate. You're going to have to change the plan. Your vision stays your vision, but your plan has to constantly change. And it could change every day this week. It could change once a week, once a month. But we need to be nimble enough not to be married to the plan. Again, I'm a process guy. I'm an engineer. Once we set it in stone, it's structure, it doesn't change. We need to change that logic and say, you know what, where are we going? What are the results that we want to achieve? And is this plan consistent with that? And if somebody else has to change of necessity, then we all need to be willing to say, I need to change because that has to change. How are we going to get it done? Again, it's not going to happen because of one person. It's going to happen because of multiple people. But once this is in place, once we have other leaders in the organizations, I may still be the chief cheerleader, but I've got a whole squad with me now. And they all have to contribute and participate. So it starts small, it begins to build, the plan changes. As Andrea Diaz said, you're not going to get there the way you got here. The plan's got to change. So the plan changes, I change, other people change. But what we retain is that vision. That's what keeps the glue together and our core values.
That's very inspiring to hear, Stan. And you're right, that being the chief cheerleader, you got to keep talking about that vision, because people make decisions differently when they know what they're willing to take a greater risk. And it changes how people decide and where they're going to go. So that's awesome. So guys, we are running tight on time because I'm doing a terrible job of moderating apparently, but we have about 6 more minutes. So each of you can get 2 minutes for your next answer. So I'm going to jump right into focus to make sure that we give that the attention it deserves. So Stan, I'm going to ask you first. Let's say, not everyone is always there yet with a self-scaling team. And there's that challenge of when do you work in your business and when do you work on your business? Because you still got to pay the bills in order, what do you say, Donna? Profit? I always say it wrong.
Profit drives possibility.
Profit drives possibility. So you got to make money along the way. So Stan, what advice do you have our audience when it comes to working on your business versus in your business? And to everybody, let's just try to be as brief as we can so we can get to Q&A.
Yep. And I'm going to keep it real simple because it is simple. Focus on what's important. Ignore everything else. And it's our responsibilities as leaders to identify what's important and to hold ourselves accountable and to talk to others in our organization. Maybe not command them, but challenge them. Is that really important? And if not, ignore it. And we like to do all the nitty gritty. We can't. Focus on what's important, ignore everything else. That's it.
Probably really hard for you to tell engineers that.
Very, very hard. Yes.
Well, I give you even more credit than most people then. Roseanne, how about you?
I started with my why. I was a baby in business 7 years ago. And I really had to think about who I wanted to be, what I wanted this to be, what did I want my future to look like. And that really meant a lot of soul searching and, a lot of Simon Sinek stuff. Start with why, what was motivating me? Why did I want to be a family lawyer? How was that going to serve my community? What did I find rewarding about it? And what was going to be compelling to people that I was trying to sell to? How was I going to be able to do that? What was the messaging and the hook, if you will, that was going to distinguish me from, 41,000 other lawyers in the state of New Jersey, many, many, many of whom say they do what I do. So there was that is what I primarily focused on in the infancy. And from there, I went to systems, processes, and et cetera.
Great. And Donna, I've heard you talk about this concept of an MBA, but it's not the MBA we all know it to be. So what is it and how can you help us focus?
Awesome. So I am 100% self-taught and everything I say, I've swiped from someone and made it my own. I do not have an original thought. I just have application of many things that I learned because I am a student for life. And the concept of MBA comes from a book I love called The 4-Hour Workweek by the slightly crazy Tim Ferriss. He's a little almost obnoxious, but anyway, MBA is not your typical Masters of Business Administration. It is management by absence. That's how I started my process of stepping out of the role I was in, that fabulous micromanager, because I kind of suck the air out of a room when I'm in it. I don't mean to do it. It just happens. I do it much less than I used to. But I started by working on my MBA. And I think what I would say is the 4 things we've talked about are equally important, but this is the one you can start today. And so what I want to say is what I think is really important is 1, schedule time Well, I'm a huge, this is what my calendar looks like every day. I block my calendar, I print it, that's what I do. I focus on what's on my calendar. If it's not on my calendar, it's not getting done. But schedule time to think. What do you want to think about? There's lots of things you have to think about. So schedule time to think. Know your 20%. What is it that you do? What's the 20% that you do that produces 80% of your results? Spend all your time on your 20%. Delegate the 80%. And, you know, we've mentioned Simon Sinek a few times, and I in 2021, I don't know, 2020, I changed my title to Chief Visionary Officer. That's my job. It's my job to see around corners, because Simon Sinek refers to it as an infinite game. There are no winners in business. If you win, you're done. I don't ever want to be done. I want to play the infinite game. I want to work like Roseanne. You know, I mean, it's so funny that Rachel was on an island. I was in Sedona. Roseanne's in Key West, because those are the companies we built.
Get out.
Those are the companies. So what we're saying to you isn't theory. It's our application of what we've learned. So focus for me is, you know, schedule time to think. And, you know, I love what Stan said. And I would add to that, you know, when I'm trying to make a decision, I stole this from Casey Gosell and the one thing, but it's either a hell yes or a no. There really is no in between anymore. So when you're deciding, should I do this? Shouldn't I do this? And Warren Buffett says the difference between really successful people and successful people is really successful people say no to almost everything. It's hard, but you have to learn to do it.
It's become my favorite word, not to my children, but I like it. All right. So with that, so thank you. These panelists were incredible. I learned a lot. I wrote down, I have to reread a couple of these books. So I'm very excited to do that. And as panelists, if you have any videos or anything like books that you want to drop into the chat for our audience, that would be great that you mentioned. And as a recap, we're focusing on 4 areas to build self-scaling teams: people, profit, culture, and focus. And there's no quick way to achieve this. It takes work, but when you get there, it feels like you're at the top of the mountain. So with that, I'm going to bring Vicki Hart to the stage, who is our Director of Client Engagement at Paradigm, and she's going to run us through some Q&A. I hope she's here.
I am here, but I can't do my video. And what do you mean I was your Director of Client Engagement?
Did I say was? Is our Director?
Is there something I need to be aware of? All right, people, I'm open for business. Just kidding. You know, Stan, a lot of the comments were an engineer being able to ignore process. So just so you know, that was not lost on our audience today. We have a lot of really great questions. What an amazing and engaged conversation that happened today. One of the things that stands out to me comes from Kelly Colson. And she said, you have all acknowledged adopting a CRM is a challenge at first. How did you go about creating buy-in from your staff, which we all know is critical, around adopting a new CRM? Go.
I'll take that. I say you have to do it in bite-sized pieces. And the truth is, it's like any other change. People don't like change. So you have to be prepared to coddle them, to stroke them. Oh my gosh, that's so fabulous. You have to tie it to their why, because when you first implement CRM, it feels like work. What you have to do, in my opinion, is show them how that work will pay off, how that will make their life easier. And certainly if it's an actual sales role, how it will increase their commissions because they'll be more efficient. And I believe how you prospect, the efficiency, how you message, how you follow up when you say you're going to follow up, which CRM helps you to do all of that, demonstrates how you do business. And so with a CRM process, especially for your people who are in sales, it lets their prospects see that they're on top of their game.
So we're right in the middle of it. So as you know, we brought on Lorena on board to help us determine what type of CRM system we need, how to design it, which particular software. We've done that. We own the software, it's been set up, and now we've got to put information in it. That's where we got stuck. Again, we're engineers, we're process people. This should be easy. There's a methodology to go through it. Even I've got 2 contacts I put in it, and then I got stuck. And it's a little bit of it's change management. I mean, as engineers, we like technology. We're not afraid of technology, but it's managing that change. It's that self-discipline of going from here to there. It's going through the awkward stage where I'm uncomfortable with it, where I don't know all the bits and pieces. And we use technology on all fronts. So we've been through this game over and over and over. A design software package, a project management software package, a time management system. So the concept of dealing with the challenges of CRM technology is analogous to challenges we've gone through and we've achieved. But I think here's the difference, and I'm going to bring it back to what we talked about today, which is a scaling business and a vision. You know, we know that we can't go beyond where we are without doing things that are different. And these are tools that are necessary. I am by no means an expert in marketing and CRM and sales and the whole bit. I'm an engineer, but I'm an open-minded engineer, and I listen to people. So intellectually, I get it. It makes sense. The challenge is the practice, the process, the doing it. You know, let's face it, we all know what's right and wrong. We all know what we should do and shouldn't do. So when the guy comes at the end of the meal and says, would you like to see the dessert menu? Or you're out on Friday night and they come along and they say, would you like another cocktail? I mean, look, we deal with these behavioral things all the time. This is behavioral modification. And what we need to do is be a support structure to each other. So what we try to do is, if I'm struggling, I'm expecting my partners in this process to motivate me. And then when I hear my partners having a struggle, I need to motivate them. So it's positive peer support throughout that process. We all know it. We all know it. We all know why we need to do it. But damn it, we need to do it. And we need to get on it. And as soon as we're done, we're going to be on the phone with Lorena, and she will be part of that process of beating us up.
I wonder if she's watching this now.
I don't know.
For those of you who don't know, Lorena Moscata is our workflow strategist at Paradigm. So just so it paints the full picture. And though I know I'm moderating the chat and the Q&A I am, as director of client engagement, leveraging a CRM has allowed me to be more efficient, where it actually allowed us to get rid of other processes that were like, Rachel, actually most of you here except for Stan probably know me pretty well. Anything shiny distracts me. It has to be simple. It has to be user friendly. Yeah. And the beauty of holding on to the adoption, which was a little rough in the beginning for me, but what it did do is it got rid of 3 other steps. Mm-hmm. And if you can get me from, 5 steps to 2, we're winning. And I'm allowed to be more efficient as the face of our marketing enterprise, because I'm leveraging the data that is provided for me. And yes, I have some, I fall back sometimes, but as I get right back on track, because I find that it makes me more efficient. I'm having more quality conversations, and I'm not wasting my time talking to the wrong people. We always talk about, I like to kiss a lot less frogs. High quality frogs, please, that can turn into princes are my thing. So that's what the CRM has enabled me to do. So not that anyone asked, but I figured I'd put my 2 cents in as the person who actually uses it and had to struggle with adoption myself. Roseanne, did you want to add to that?
Oh, we just adopted a CRM, Salesforce, about a year and a half ago. And basically the only thing I could do, because nobody wanted it, is to let them design it. So I got out of the way. I'm like, this is what we're going to do. Make it the way you think it should be made. And that's what we did. But like you all said, sometimes we backslide and we don't use it the way we should. But when we do, it makes things a lot more efficient. And when you have literally hundreds of cases, it's the greatest way for me to see where we are. And where are these people in the sales funnel? I mean, there's so much data that's available now that we were gathering manually.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
What's that?
Yeah, spreadsheets.
Rachel, did you want to add anything before we move on to the next question?
Let's do one last question and then we have to wrap it up because we're running up on time.
Excellent. We're wrapping at 1 today?
Yes.
Excellent. Okay, real quick. I think this is a great question about metrics. What metrics do you use to put in place to monitor the performance of your people? Now, I don't know if this could be answered in 60 seconds.
Well, I'll just give it a quick over. Everyone's got to have a number. And the numbers vary, the metrics vary, but everyone has to have a number. Donna?
I agree. We have numbers and they're different for each position, not the person. Again, remember, we're creating processes. So the position has KPIs, key performance indicators. They might be billable time. They might be client testimonials, client reviews, client complaints, colleague compliments, colleague complaints. But yeah, it has to be something I guess it's a combination of, it's performance planning prep.
Excellent. And thank you, Alan Berger, for that question.
Yes.
I think that's it. Who are we wrapping up with today? Who's taking us out of here? Rachel, is that you?
I'll wing it. All right. So with that, thank you so much to our panelists. You guys were inspiring. Thank you to our sponsors for supporting this event. And thank you for NJBIA and Donna for being amazing partners and help making sure that this happens. Be sure to register for our December and January event. They're going to be really awesome. I'm very excited for both of them. And we will see you all next month.
Okay. And I see that we have questions that were not answered. I personally will make sure you get answers from us on those questions.
Thank you, Donna.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Have a
Thank you.
fabulous rest of your day.